You're looking at comments online and you see one from someone who took horse medicine and they got better. Similar stories are added all the time and they feel really hopeful. What's real? What's luck? And what could be a dangerous mistake to trust? Welcome to Elevating Cancer Treatment, where I explain the science, bust myths, and help you navigate your cancer journey with confidence. If that sounds like your kind of content, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and tap the notification bell. And if you find it helpful, please do share. It really helps get accurate information out there, and accurate information is what we're about. I'm Dr. Jay Chaplin. I'm a PhD, not an MD. And everything here is educational, not medical advice. Every cancer is unique, so always consult your care team before making decisions. And before we dive in, I've made a free guide for you, 10 things to elevate your chemo journey. It's packed with practical tips you can start using today. Grab it using the link in the description down below. The internet's full of comments like, I survived mesothelioma, so you can trust me. Or, my friend quit chemo and switched to fenbendazole, and now they're cancer-free. Someone else had their tumor shrink faster on a keto diet. If you're scared, if you're looking for options, if you're trying to feel better as fast as possible, you've probably seen comments like these online. And they can sound convincing. Some of them are true. Many of them aren't. Someone went through something really awful, they made a bold choice, and they came out alive and happy about it. And we're wired to trust those kinds of hopeful stories, especially when they're shared experiences. They help us figure out what's safe, what works, and what doesn't. That's how our minds are wired. It's how my mind is wired. How much of that should we really trust? There are a few things we should think about. First, and this is a bit of heresy, even if the story is true, so what? Here's something that we don't think about often enough. Rare events do happen. In the US, about 2 million people are diagnosed with cancer every single year. Out of those, maybe 25 to 30 people, that's about 1 out of 80,000, will have their cancer spontaneously vanish on its own with no treatment whatsoever. It's what we call a spontaneous remission. So yes, sometimes someone really does have their cancer just miraculously disappear. And do you want to bet your life on a 1 in 80,000 chance, or on something that we've proven helps people survive 80% of the time? Those are very different numbers. 2, one-on-one comparisons, they don't mean very much. Every cancer is different, really different. 2 people, brother and sister, can have the exact same type of cancer, but when you zoom in on their tumor cells, the genetic mutations might be totally different. Sometimes there are thousands of variations inside of one tumor. That means comparing your treatment journey to anyone else's is basically comparing apples to sardines. Even if your identical twins' chemo didn't work, but another drug did, that doesn't mean that your body will respond the same way. And that's why clinical trials, which look at usually thousands of people, are so important, because they show not what works for one person, but what works for most people, a big average. Third, the chemo didn't work until it did problem. And this is another thing people don't realize. Chemo can often take months to show visible results. It doesn't necessarily melt tumors instantly. Sometimes it can, but often it doesn't. It damages cancer cells so that when they try and divide, they die. That's what we call mitotic collapse. So slow-growing cancers take much longer to shrink. So when someone quits chemo after a couple of rounds, a few weeks, a couple of months, and they switch to an alternative treatment, and then their scans start improving, it's probably actually because the chemo is finally working, not because of the new thing that they started. It can take up to 4 months. Number 4, I feel better after stopping chemo. The placebo trap. When someone's been told that chemo is poison and natural remedies are gentle, just deciding to quit chemo can make them feel better, less stressed, more in control. And that's totally human, totally normal, and feeling better doesn't necessarily mean getting better. We've studied this. Most cancers don't cause much pain until they're very far advanced. So that short-term relief might actually be a placebo effect or just the body catching a temporary break. And about lab tests, those can fool you too. For example, it's well known that the PSA levels for prostate cancer often go up right after chemo or radiation before dropping off later, what we call a PSA bounce. People can see the number rise, panic, quit treatment, try something else, and then watch it fall and assume that the new therapy worked, when really, it's just the delayed effect of the chemo finally kicking in and doing what it had been taken for the entire time. Number 5, taking score too soon. I've been off chemo for a year and my cancer hasn't come back. That sounds amazing, and a year is nowhere near the full story. Cancer can take years to grow back, especially if you had surgery to cut out the major tumors. Studies show that during the first 2 to 3 years, survival rates for people using standard therapy versus alternative therapy might look identical. But by year 5, year 7, the death rate can double in the alternative therapy group, often because they skipped or delayed proven treatment. So those glowing "I'm fine after 1 year" stories might not look so good 5 years down the road. You have to factor that in. We really want the best for you, and this is what the data shows across many people, across many situations. So here, number 6, survivorship bias. This is the hidden filter, and here's where it all really comes together. There's a story from World War II when bombers were coming back in, and they were riddled with bullet holes everywhere, and the plan was to reinforce the areas that had the most hits. But then a statistician named Abraham Wald realized that the planes that made it back were actually the winners. And the best places to reinforce were where the bullet holes were missing in the planes that came back, like the cockpit and the engines. And it makes sense when you stop and think about it. And that kind of survivorship bias is everywhere in medical stories, in more ways than you think. People who feel good and survive post online, and people who don't can't or won't. When you scroll through success stories about some miracle cure, you're not seeing the full picture. It's like someone stripped out the not 5 reviews from an Amazon rating. Folks who feel good about their decision a year or 2 out post great things. But if the situation goes bad, will they come back to admit that it didn't work out? Can they? Would your friends do that? Controlled trials, on the other hand, they track every outcome, good and bad, so you can actually see what percentage of people really benefit. Without that, you're really just looking at somebody's highlight reel, not the whole movie of their life. Here's the takeaway. Personal stories can be inspiring. They can lead you to lots of opportunities, but check them because they're not data. If you're facing something as serious as cancer, you deserve real evidence and the best possible outcome, not someone's lucky break or some viral post. Ask your doctor why they recommend a particular treatment. What's the evidence behind it? Look for clinical trials. And if you read someone's miracle story, remember, one person's path doesn't rewrite your odds. Double check everything. Because when it comes to your health, hope is super powerful. It really is. And evidence saves lives. Stay curious and stay skeptical. If you found this at all helpful, please give it a like, share it with someone who's sorting through medical information online, and subscribe for more science made useful. If you want to go deeper into your own treatment options, I offer one-on-one sessions and medical advocacy to help you make sense of the science and work with your care team more effectively. You can learn more on our website. The link's down below.